The girl confessed her feelings to her senior. To her surprise, the senior lifted her shirt, revealing, "Actually, I'm a senior boy." Saki thought, "Isn't that even better? I get to enjoy both the boy and girl versions of my senior. One husband, double the happiness." Ever since Makoto received that note, he knew something would happen after school today. Still, he chose to wait in the classroom for Saki. Finally, Saki rushed in, breathing heavily, explaining she was late because of an exam. Makoto didn't even remember who this junior was. Saki introduced herself, then confessed passionately, and showered Makoto with praises. The senior's gentle eyes, tall figure, and slightly deep voice all attracted Saki. Makoto didn't respond directly, but first asked her if she liked girls. Saki didn't like girls. She just liked Makoto, the senior. Facing such sincere feelings, Makoto had no choice but to open his shirt, pull off his wig, and reveal his true identity. He was actually a boy. Instead of being put off, Saki became even more excited, even spraying a nosebleed. Makoto didn't expect this reaction, and quickly handed her a handkerchief to wipe it off. But his next words made Saki's heart sink. Makoto felt that even if they dated, he wouldn't fall for Saki. So he never gave her any hope from the start. Saki accepted the outcome, but was not ready to give up, telling Makoto to be prepared, as she would definitely become his first love. Saki's words stirred Makoto's heart, making him think of this junior even during class. He didn't think he would develop romantic feelings for Saki, perhaps due to past experiences. And for Saki's sake, Makoto couldn't get too close to her. Unfortunately, she was a junior with no sense of distance, rushing to find him right after school. Makoto had no choice but to hide and avoid seeing her. During PE, Makoto effortlessly dribbled past someone and scored a basket. His dashing performance charmed many male classmates. They all knew Makoto was a cross-dresser and just joked about it. When Makoto approached, they walked away, except for Saki, the naive younger student from his class. While her class was having art, she eagerly talked to Makoto, who just wanted to keep his distance. He told Saki that the juniors and seniors knew he was a boy, and getting too close might make others think she was odd. Saki looked hurt, not because she might be isolated, but she thought this was a secret between her and her senior. Why did others know as well? Makoto found her innocence amusing, which relaxed him. After school, Saki gave him a new handkerchief embroidered with a small dolphin. Makoto was charmed, but before he could take it, the wind blew it onto a tree. Remembering his mother's words that it was for girls, he hesitated. Then Saki quickly climbed the tree to retrieve it. When she landed, Makoto saw her in a new light. He took the handkerchief, removed leaves from her hair, and promised to cherish it. Saki wished he meant cherishing her, or even turning her into a handkerchief. Unnoticed, a shady peer was watching them. The next morning, that boy cornered Saki, questioning her intentions toward Makoto. When Makoto saw them, he intervened. Saki was shocked, thinking her beloved senior had a boyfriend. Makoto quickly clarified it was just a childhood friend, but the boy seemed suspicious, accusing Saki of ill intentions, perhaps to prank Makoto like others before. Saki appeared guilty, but Makoto defended her and dismissed the boy Ryuji, believing in Saki. However, Ryuji suspected Saki was hiding something. He saw her acting suspiciously in the corridor, about to take something out when she noticed him and ran. Ryuji called Makoto to chase Saki and check her pocket. Reluctantly, she revealed a blood-stained handkerchief, the one from Makoto, now spoiled. Saki cried, upset it was ruined. She denied smelling the handkerchief, but neither believed her. As Ryuji left, he dropped his student ID, which Saki picked up, discovering his secret. She used this to blackmail Ryuji into returning her photos of Makoto's childhood, which she adored, much to Ryuji's disgust. Saki suddenly changed her tone and asked Ryuji if he also liked Makoto. It was initially a casual question, but Ryuji's reaction suggested he truly did. Saki clearly didn't believe his denial and challenged him, saying if he didn't like Makoto, then he should give her all the photos. At that moment, Makoto approached, and Saki rushed to greet him, but was quickly silenced by Ryuji covering her mouth. Makoto saw their interaction and couldn't help but smile bitterly before walking away. After he left, Ryuji warned Saki that despite Makoto's dressing style, he didn't do it to attract attention. If she approached him in public, it would worry him. Saki remembered Makoto mentioning this before and quickly called Ryuji master, asking for advice on how to get along with Makoto. She sensed a good relationship between Ryuji and Makoto. Ryuji, feeling flattered, spilled many details about Makoto. They had been together since kindergarten. Ryuji used to think of ways to tease Makoto, who never cried no matter the prank. Once during hide-and-seek, Ryuji locked himself in a cabinet and couldn't escape, but Makoto, in tears, rescued him, worried about what would happen if he couldn't find him. That moment deeply touched Ryuji, and they have been close friends ever since. As a good friend, Ryuji took it upon himself to protect Makoto, getting angry whenever someone bothered him. Moved by Ryuji's words, Saki decided never to oppose her master again. Meanwhile, Makoto was pondering why Saki could have developed feelings for him. Suddenly, he heard the teacher mention forgetting some materials and asked the duty boy to fetch them. Makoto stood up, noticing the teacher's awkward expression, which saddened him. Below, the naive junior girl shouted, inviting him on a date today, only to be scolded by the teacher. Seeing her saddened look, Makoto offered a knowing smile and told the teacher he would get the materials. Saki, however, felt guilty. She knew she shouldn't talk to Makoto in public, as her master had advised, but she couldn't help herself. Unbeknownst to her, her smile had rescued Makoto from an awkward situation. After school, Makoto said goodbye to Ryuji and went alone to the equipment room. There, he changed out of his girl's clothes into boy's clothes, temporarily locking away his true self in this small room. Makoto was never interested in the things typical boys liked from a young age. Instead, he liked pink, a color most girls preferred. His mother told him that pink was for girls and gave him a blue bag. However, Makoto secretly longed for beautiful high heels and skirts. One day, he was eating on the rooftop with Ryuji when Saki suddenly appeared, insisting on joining them. Seeing Makoto biting his chopsticks made her heart flutter. With summer vacation approaching and the thought of not seeing Makoto during the break, Saki felt sad and took the opportunity to ask to add him as a friend. Makoto couldn't refuse the pleading look, akin to a puppy's, and reluctantly agreed. Ryuji also added her casually. Hearing that she could only contact Makoto every 2 or 3 days, Saki converted this to 72 hours and prepared to set alarms to disturb him. Just then, Makoto remembered he had to go to the office. Saki handed him a pair of chopsticks and waited expectantly to be fed. To escape to the office quickly, Makoto reluctantly fed Saki a small octopus sausage. Watching her bite down, Makoto felt his heart stir and quickly fled in panic. Ryuji, watching this, was stunned, but wouldn't admit he was jealous of Saki. Saki, taking advantage of the situation, asked Ryuji to help her pursue her love. Thinking of Makoto's rare smile, Ryuji agreed, not denying his own feelings for Makoto, but feeling different from Saki's. After all, he thought it strange for a boy to like another boy. On the last day of the first term, after the principal's speech, Saki couldn't wait to find Makoto and wanted to walk home with him. However, Makoto harshly rejected her. Ryuji, having promised to help Saki, let her deliver a notebook to Makoto's house. Makoto had already changed into boy's clothes by the time he got home. He deliberately acted like a boy because his mother preferred it. Thus, he could only be himself at school. Back in his room, he realized he had forgotten his notebook, but found the pink handkerchief Saki had given him instead. This is trouble, he thought, knowing it couldn't be found by his mom. He had agreed not to bring cute things home, yet he really liked this handkerchief and hid it under his bed. At home, he felt constrained, constantly reminding himself to act like a boy. Unexpectedly, Saki showed up at his door to deliver the notebook. His mother was thrilled, excited that her son had brought a girl home. She welcomed Saki warmly and immediately asked when they had started dating. Saki honestly admitted she was not dating Makoto, but had a crush on him. His mother immediately took Saki's side and began inquiring about her son's school life. Makoto, not wanting his mother to learn about him dressing as a girl at school, quickly interrupted them. Using the excuse that it was late and he needed to take Saki home, they left together. This was Saki's first time seeing Makoto in these clothes, giving her a real sense of him as a boy. Makoto explained his situation to Saki, who immediately reflected on whether she had said anything inappropriate. She then complimented him, saying he was great no matter the appearance, which unwittingly made Makoto's heart flutter. They then bumped into Ryuji, who had brought fireworks, and invited them to a display. The three had a pleasant evening. Seizing the good moment, Saki courageously asked Makoto if they could meet outside school again. Unable to refuse, they planned another outing to the swimming pool. At the pool, where light clothing was necessary, Saki covered her eyes, pleading with Makoto to zip up his attire as he had left his zipper undone. Ryuji, influenced by Saki, blushed and missed a volleyball when he saw Makoto's bare chest. He reminded Makoto to zip up to avoid unwanted attention, though he was hardly one to talk. A week later, Saki went to Kamakura with her family and came back tanned. She brought souvenirs for Makoto and Ryuji. Makoto was thrilled by the cute gifts, but Ryuji's was more casual. Summer vacation was ending soon. Makoto looked forward to the new term because of the school festival where he could wear his favorite clothes and enjoy good food. Saki also became excited. Last year, Makoto missed the festival due to illness. Just thinking about wearing a beautiful lace dress excited him. He snapped back to reality, worried Saki might find him disgusting. Instead, both smiled warmly at him and kindly reminded him not to get sick this year. Makoto felt more comfortable around Saki. One eagerly wanted to wear a dress, and the other two were eager to see Makoto in it, already fantasizing. Saki slammed the table and suggested they shop for dresses for their seniors together. Unable to resist Saki's compelling suggestion and the thought of freely buying cute items, Makoto agreed. After parting, he ran to a stationery store to buy a cute ornament that matched the penguin Saki had given him. Penguins. That evening, the three agreed to go shopping in Harajuku the next day. Makoto dressed as a girl, and right at the station, a man flirted with him, calling him the cutest girl he'd ever seen. Makoto happily responded, and the man thought he had a chance, but Makoto walked past him to Ryuji and Saki, who were dazzled by Makoto's appearance. They hurried to a clothing store. Makoto was mesmerized by the beautiful dresses. Saki picked several for him to try. The first was an adorable pink dress. Makoto was so nervous he could sweat. Saki, who tried a blue dress, was too petite to fill it out. Then Makoto, sneaking a peek, came out and instantly captivated Ryuji, who had to remind himself that Makoto was a boy. Next, they went to a dessert shop. Everything looked cute to Makoto, who excitedly asked Ryuji which one he wanted. Ryuji felt his heart race again and volunteered to buy ice cream to cool down. They also visited a high heel store. Makoto had always wanted to wear high heels, but they were indeed challenging. He could hardly walk in them, yet still found them adorable. After shopping for half the day, the trio found a restaurant. Makoto ordered the cutest cat-shaped omelet rice, too cute to eat. Turning around, Ryuji had already finished his meal. In the afternoon, they visited a beauty store. Today, Makoto could finally be himself without restraint, as Ryuji and Saki wouldn't mock or give him malicious looks. Unbeknownst to them, danger was approaching. At home, Makoto's mother entered his room and started cleaning up the mess. The shopping day for the three ended. Makoto regretted not dressing as a girl earlier and having more fun. Saki suggested they could go out again, but this time Makoto refused without hesitation. After saying goodbye to Saki, Makoto couldn't help but thank Ryuji for always being willing to be his friend. He then went back to school alone to change clothes, savoring the day's joy on his way home. However, he arrived to find his house dark. Turning on the light, he saw a pink handkerchief in front of his mother. She turned to him and demanded, "What is this?" What a horror movie opening this is. After a whole day of fun, the feminine senior returned home to find his mother sitting at the table with a stern face, a pink handkerchief on the table. She asked him what it was. Makoto, feigning calm, casually told his mom it belonged to a junior named Saki, whom he had borrowed it from and forgotten to return. His mother then relaxed, crying as she hugged him, pleading with him not to worry her anymore. From when Makoto was little, his mother had always hoped he would be like other boys, not liking pink things and being more boisterous. Thus, Makoto learned to read the room from a young age. Whenever he eyed beautiful dresses, he would quickly shut the wardrobe upon hearing his mother's voice. Once, a female classmate gave him a cute pink eraser, which he cherished, but his mother saw it, along with him wearing a dress. She broke down, calling Makoto strange and rejecting his touch, crying incessantly thereafter. Makoto asked his father what to do. His father wondered if he wanted to be a girl, but Makoto himself was unsure. Fortunately, his father was understanding and helped him transfer to his current high school, where Makoto could live as he pleased, of course keeping it a secret from his mother. Thus, Makoto split himself in two. However, recalling the day's happy moments with friends, he felt content, promising his mother he would no longer worry her, and decided to let everything end there. The next day, he surprisingly went to school dressed as a boy, instantly turning from the school beauty to the school hunk. Students from other classes couldn't help but come and watch. Ryuji, hearing this, hurried over, shocked to see Makoto no longer wearing dresses. At lunch, Saki was so stunned she couldn't speak. Hearing Makoto say he would never wear a dress again, Saki looked disappointed, called him a big fool, and ran away crying. Ryuji chose to respect Makoto's decision, thinking Saki was just startled and would soon come around. Makoto comforted himself with this thought, but Ryuji's feelings were actually quite conflicted. Despite being able to be good friends with Makoto, why did he feel something was off? After switching back to male clothes, Makoto no longer received sideways glances from other students. Everyone stopped avoiding him, and the basketball team even invited him to join. Previously, Makoto had shown his basketball skills, and many were eager for his contact information. However, Saki no longer approached him until a week later when she seriously asked if they could walk home together. After some hesitation, she accused him of lying, breaking down as she spoke. Makoto insisted he was serious and even boldly asked if Saki would date him, as it wouldn't seem odd now. He planned to be the normal boy his mother wanted him to be, but Saki refused, unwilling to see Makoto suppress his true desires and live a lie. She ran off after speaking her mind. A week passed, and Ryuji, unable to stand by, sought out Saki. She still insisted Makoto was lying, claiming a woman's intuition, especially recalling the day they went out, and Makoto's reaction to a beautiful dress. She knew the sparkle in his eyes was genuine, but felt powerless to influence his decision, leaving her torn. She believed something must have happened for Makoto to suddenly want to date her. Ryuji reacted strongly upon hearing this, but regained composure, relieved that Saki was only focused on Makoto and hadn't noticed his reaction. Meanwhile, another girl was showing interest in Makoto, inviting him to dance with her. This reminded Makoto of an upcoming party. He planned to wear his father's suit, realizing he couldn't wear the beautiful dress he had bought. Remembering Saki's smile that day, Makoto momentarily wavered but quickly reaffirmed his decision. He couldn't regret his choices or disappoint his mother. After school, Makoto prepared to clear out his secret space. He threw cosmetics, wigs, and skirts into a bag. He smashed them with a large metal cabinet, including a small ornament he had bought. He also ripped the skirts. Regretting his purchases, he questioned himself internally. "You're clearly a boy." After disposing of everything in a garbage bag, Makoto said goodbye. Farewell, the real me. From today, he was determined to become normal. On the day of the party, his mother joyfully gave him a suit, mentioning she had also placed something in the pocket. Makoto was puzzled, but didn't ask. At the party, Saki and Ryuji stuck together, uninterested in mingling, and just wanted to eat. They accidentally made eye contact with Makoto, who was about to dance with a girl from that day. Ryuji urged Saki to make up with Makoto. Saki said she would wait until she figured out a way to get the truth from her senior. The next second, she saw Makoto going to dance with the girl and quickly asked Ryuji who she was, fearing heartbreak. Ryuji told her they probably weren't dating yet, giving Saki immediate hope. She then told Ryuji that if he dated the senior, she might give up. Ryuji said that couldn't be possible, then invited Saki to enjoy the party, and she got excited immediately. Watching a junior girl energetic in front of her good friend, Makoto zoned out. A classmate brought him back by complimenting her hairstyle. The girl replied it was a wig because she thought Makoto might like long hair. Makoto couldn't help showing a longing look but quickly forced those thoughts away. While the girl went to the restroom, he pulled out a pink handkerchief his mother had put in his pocket, the last cute item he had, which he also planned to discard. However, the junior girl's smiling face suddenly came to mind, and Makoto found it hard to let go. He just wanted to like what he liked, so why suppress himself? When the girl returned, Makoto immediately asked to borrow the wig. Outside, Ryuji and Saki, full from eating, were resting when they saw the school janitor collecting trash. Saki noticed a pair of red high heels in the bag. Those were her seniors. Without a second thought, she chased after them, sure they were his special item. Meanwhile, Makoto put on the wig. Although it didn't match his outfit, he still faced his true self. As Saki chased the garbage truck, she inwardly cursed the foolish senior. Although not very bright, she could tell he was lying. She hoped Makoto wouldn't pretend to like her when he didn't, because liking someone is something you can see right away. Saki wanted to be the one Makoto truly liked, which is why she cherished his special item. When Makoto asked Ryuji where Saki was, she had already run far away. Hearing this, Makoto immediately chased after her. Eventually, he found Saki on the roadside, holding a garbage bag. Clutching the handkerchief Saki had given him, he shouted his true feelings. "I love cute things the most." Before Saki could react, Makoto blurted out everything. He preferred sailor suits over boys' uniforms and liked dresses and high heels too. Although he had thought about giving up many times because it seemed strange for a boy to like cute things, Makoto wanted to continue loving what he truly loved. Saki hadn't given up on the real him, so how could he give up on himself first? After his outburst, Makoto ran down to her. Unable to hold back, he jumped in front of Saki, who then complimented him, saying he looked prettier this way. She then pulled out the high heels from the garbage bag. Makoto couldn't contain himself anymore and rushed to hug his junior, thanking her for protecting his special item. Taking advantage of the moment, Saki cheekily helped him put on the high heels. Although he didn't get to wear a dress, the current Makoto felt like the princess he admired, all thanks to his junior. Upon hearing his regret, the junior immediately took off her own dress and, with a nosebleed, urged him to change into it. In the end, Makoto got his wish, while Saki put on the ill-fitting suit. But that didn't matter, as long as the dress suited Makoto. He then extended his hand, inviting Saki to dance with him. This time, Saki didn't refuse. The boy in the dress and the girl in the suit danced gracefully under the moonlight. Makoto and Saki went home wearing each other's clothes. Ryuji initially thought they had done something inappropriate. Hearing Makoto decided not to give up cross-dressing, he was relieved. Previously, Makoto seemed lifeless in men's clothes. However, Ryuji felt a strange emotion growing inside him. The next day, Makoto wore women's clothing to school again and returned a borrowed wig to a classmate. She didn't mind, and even said the clothes suited him and genuinely wanted to be friends. After they parted, Ryuji, surprised to see Makoto in a girl's school uniform, questioned him. Makoto explained that Saki had retrieved it for him, though some cute items were irretrievably lost. Seeing Makoto's smiling face, Ryuji felt an urge to kiss him, but was stopped just in time by Makoto. Ryuji secretly wished Makoto was a girl, feeling no jealousy towards others then. Wearing women's clothing again, Makoto wasn't ostracized. Ryuji missed walking home with him, but was glad they could still have lunch together. Makoto invited them to an aquarium during the holidays, contingent on Saki passing her makeup exam. Saki was embarrassed about her grades, shocked to hear Ryuji always ranked high. Makoto was called away by a male classmate, leaving Ryuji and Saki feeling lonely but looking forward to the holiday outing. At the aquarium, while Makoto and Saki were busy watching fish, Ryuji watched Makoto. Discussing where to go next, Makoto suddenly spotted a neighbor and hid. Saki, ever the social butterfly, told two ladies she was lost to distract them. Seizing the moment, Ryuji grabbed Makoto's hand, and they escaped. Both handsome and beautiful, they seemed a perfect match. Unfortunately, Makoto never considered anything romantic. He remembered holding hands with Ryuji back in elementary school. When Saki returned, Ryuji was still staring at his hand, deciding not to wash it today. Before leaving, the three visited a souvenir shop. Seeing Saki staring at a whale charm, Makoto remembered her fondness for whale-themed items and asked if she liked whales. Surprisingly, Saki quickly put the charm down and changed the subject, moving over to Ryuji. Makoto secretly bought the whale charm and another souvenir, giving them to Saki and Ryuji as gifts before parting, acknowledging he often troubled them both. Saki's reaction to the whale wasn't purely happy. Her smile seemed forced. The train ride home was so crowded that Saki and Makoto almost kissed. Makoto blushed, while Saki showed no embarrassment. On the day the grades were released, Saki indeed failed 2 subjects and needed over 80% to pass the makeup exams. She begged Makoto and Ryuji for tutoring, but with Makoto busy with basketball, stern tutor Ryuji took on the task, not quite the tutoring session Saki had hoped for. She imagined a scenario where a handsome senior would explain things gently, getting close. or Makoto encouraging her with rewards and revealing his shirt. Lost in thought, Makoto returned. Seeing Saki lacked motivation, Ryuji suggested a study camp at his place next week while his parents were away. Exciting both Saki and Makoto, Ryuji shared the news with his sister, who was relieved to see his relationship with Makoto improving. Back in his room, Ryuji fantasized about spending the night with Makoto. Disgusted by his own expression on his phone, he now recognized his feelings for Makoto, but couldn't let Makoto find out. Otherwise, their relationship would never be the same. On the weekend, the two met as planned. Saki couldn't resist pinching her cute little sister's cheeks. After studying for a while, Saki and Ryuji started bickering. The sister took the chance to ask Makoto some questions, which made Saki feel threatened, thinking her sister liked Makoto too. She then confessed her feelings for her senior without hesitation. Later, they all made dumplings together. Ryuji and his sister did a great job, and Saki's were cute, but only Makoto's were a mess. Saki declared she would eat all of Makoto's dumplings. When Makoto noticed flour on Saki's face, he wiped it off, making her overjoyed. Today, she wouldn't wash her face. Her sister silently watched their interaction and wondered if Saki truly liked Makoto, suggesting true feelings aren't so easily confessed. She pointed out that Saki's reaction was different from her brother's, revealing she had seen through everything. Meanwhile, Saki took her pajamas to bathe and saw Makoto changing. He apologized instinctively, and she thanked him, then nosebowled and collapsed. Makoto rushed to help, and Saki wanted to touch his face, but Ryuji arrived inconveniently, telling her to be careful while bathing. He then pushed Makoto out and helped him dry his hair. Makoto thanked him, striking right at Ryuji's heart. Before bed, the sister told ghost stories. Ryuji and Saki were unfazed, but Makoto was terrified. He woke up scared in the middle of the night and moved closer to his brother. Finding Ryuji awake, they started whispering. Makoto complained that Ryuji knew he was scared of horror stories but didn't stop them. Ryuji suggested he cuddle with Saki, which Makoto refused since she's a girl, leaving Ryuji feeling even more heartbroken. Early the next morning, Saki crouched next to Makoto, watching him sleep. Ryuji had prepared breakfast for them. Saki then noticed Ryuji wasn't wearing his glasses today. Makoto mentioned that Ryuji didn't wear glasses in elementary school and wasn't sure when his vision began to worsen. Saki wanted to see his old photos and noticed a covered frame nearby. She ran over, uncovered it, and saw a photo of a younger, chubbier Ryuji who had transformed into a handsome man. In the evening, as they saw Saki off, they learned that she lived with her grandmother. Her father was abroad studying Wales. Saki cheerfully said it was okay. Her dad still messaged her, adding that her mom did too. After saying this, she entered the train station. Ryuji hesitated but ultimately did not tell Makoto about what his sister had discovered. Back home, Saki found her grandmother paying respects to her deceased husband. She asked Saki how the training camp with her crush went. Saki excitedly shared various fun stories, then joined her grandmother in honoring her grandfather. She noticed the thread on her grandmother's hairpin was loose. It was a special item given by her grandfather, much like Makoto was special to Saki. She assured her grandmother that she would make Makoto fall for her. After her bath, she found her grandmother still talking to her grandfather, expressing concern that Saki, who disliked nothing, might not truly like anything either. But now, she seemed to be growing up well. Despite her father's absence due to his research and her mother not being around, Saki had matured. She shared various things with her mother, though she only received read receipts in response. Alone in bed that night, Saki stared at a handkerchief, questioning why she didn't feel excited. She tried to convince herself by repeating, "I like Senior Makoto. I like Senior Makoto." After Ryuji and Makoto's persistent pressure, Saki finally passed her makeup exam. Just then, the wind blew through Makoto's hair, and Saki couldn't help but stare, mesmerized. The next second, Makoto sneezed. Ryuji quickly covered his brother's head with his jacket. Saki, without a jacket, was left feeling defeated. Makoto is exceptionally skilled at basketball. His appearance, sweating on the court, was stunning. Saki and Ryuji could hardly contain themselves. Seeing how well Makoto played, the other basketball players quickly became friendly with him and invited him to join the team. Makoto was thrilled, his face radiating happiness. Suddenly, Ryuji asked Saki if she truly liked Makoto. Catching her off guard, she admitted her feelings and asked Ryuji if he liked him too. For the first time, Ryuji opened up about his feelings. He liked Makoto. Saki said she had noticed it a long time ago. However, she wondered why others could not see her feelings for Makoto as clearly. She questioned if she really didn't like Makoto. Tears streaming down her face, she asked Ryuji how she could make her feelings apparent. She had a photo of Makoto in her student handbook and cherished everything he gave her. Yet no one seemed to realize her genuine feelings for him. Without an answer, Saki ran out crying, and Ryuji quickly followed, assuring her he wouldn't pry if she didn't want to talk. He urged her to dry her tears and return. Ryuji went back to handle the situation with Makoto, telling him Saki had gone to the restroom. When Makoto resumed playing, Saki returned, giving Ryuji an embarrassed look, which led to Ryuji teasing her mercilessly. As they bickered, Makoto saw them and thought they might have feelings for each other. Considering that it had been a long time since Saki confessed to him and her recent rejection of his dating proposal, he wondered if they were dating, which would be awkward for him. After the basketball game, Saki praised Makoto for his impressive play. However, Makoto was concerned about her stomach because Ryuji had mentioned she had diarrhea, embarrassing Saki in front of her beloved senior. Seeing the two whispering again, Makoto became even more convinced of his earlier thoughts. After Saki left, he asked Ryuji if he had someone he liked. Ryuji, thinking Makoto knew about his own feelings, turned the question around and asked what Makoto thought of Saki. Makoto quickly clarified that he only liked Saki as a friend, so Ryuji need not worry. Realizing the misunderstanding that he was dating Saki, Ryuji quickly denied it, but admitted he indeed had someone he liked. He pinched Makoto's mouth, telling him the person was someone he knew very well, then ran off. Makoto, being clueless, concluded that Ryuji must like Saki. As the weather grew colder, the trio no longer dared to eat on the rooftop and started looking for empty classrooms instead. Makoto was still troubled, thinking if the two were dating, he would be in the way. He knew people generally wouldn't like someone like him. Eventually, they found an unused classroom. Saki and Ryuji continued to bicker, and Makoto felt out of place. He went alone to apply for the use of the classroom. Unexpectedly, he ran into a basketball club friend who saw Makoto wearing a wig and kindly told him he could wear it during games too. Makoto explained he had decided to only wear the wig at school if it didn't bother others. His friend complimented him on being cool, proving that the effeminate senior was indeed a straight guy magnet. On the other side, Ryuji and Saki were squatting in the empty classroom waiting for Makoto to return. Saki asked Ryuji if he knew the difference between dolphins and whales. In fact, the only difference between these two creatures is their size, and their names change accordingly. After seeing the immense special feeling Ryuji had, Saki realized it was different from her special feeling towards Makoto. She decided to give up and support the two seniors as a junior later on. This revelation made Ryuji start to question whether Saki gave up because he said he liked Makoto or because she didn't like Makoto that much to begin with. Most importantly, even if Saki stepped back, he and Makoto couldn't be together anyway. That evening, Saki stared blankly at her chat box with her mother, which was full of messages left unread. She had been a well-behaved child from a young age, not liking green peppers or carrots. Yet she would swallow them down masked by the taste of meat, forcing herself to like everyone and everything, so that people would always gather around her, even if she wasn't someone's special person. After a friend told Saki not to hang out with another girl, she agreed verbally, but still accepted that girl's group request. When friends said she was two-faced, Saki felt hurt. She liked everyone the same, though she longed to be special. She didn't feel anyone was particularly special. She hoped to get something special from someone who was special. Tears fell on a photo frame with a picture of her and her mother. Later in high school, she met Makoto, who dressed as a girl, and fell in love at first sight, thinking he was her special person and wanting to receive his special attention. Although she didn't expect that the senior was actually a boy, the more she knew about Makoto, the more special he seemed. Saki kept telling herself she liked senior Makoto, but when she told her grandmother about going to a training camp, her grandmother scolded her shamelessly, making her doubt whether her feelings were genuine. Makoto had not been alone with Saki for a long time without realizing it. Today, Ryuji was absent due to a cold, so only Makoto and Saki had lunch together. Saki was already lying on a table in the empty classroom, saying it helped her hear the rain clearly. She invited Makoto to join her, and they both lay there listening to the rain outside. Saki mentioned that Makoto had become more outgoing and was interacting more with others. Therefore, she decided that from today onwards, she would have lunch with her classmates, urging Makoto and Ryuji not to worry about her. She encouraged them to eat with their friends or basketball team members instead. Additionally, Saki planned to stop having feelings for Makoto and promised not to say things that might make him uncomfortable anymore. Makoto instinctively denied ever feeling uncomfortable and reassured her they could still be good friends who hang out. Saki touched Makoto's hair, left him with the words, "I'm glad I could like you," and then left the classroom. Ryuji impulsively told Makoto that he liked someone they both knew and immediately regretted it. Once he got home, he fell ill with a fever. To his surprise, Makoto came to visit him, bringing some jelly and awkwardly mentioned he had something to say. Ryuji became nervous as Makoto brought up the topic of having a crush. Makoto said he thought he knew who it was, then grasped Ryuji's hand, advising him to consider his feelings carefully. Ryuji thought this was encouragement and was about to confess when Makoto said, "I'll be cheering for you guys." Ryuji then realized Makoto still misunderstood his relationship with Saki. After saying this, Makoto left the room, leaving Ryuji feeling miserable. The next day, as Ryuji arrived at class, a classmate handed him a volunteer form since they were sophomores, and it was time to choose their preferences. At lunch, Saki didn't join the older students for a meal, but, being very popular, had many classmates eager to sit with her. Makoto and Ryuji, however, sat in silence. Ryuji took this chance to clarify that he didn't like Saki, but Makoto replied that Saki didn't like him either, recalling Saki's support for the seniors. Ryuji felt mixed emotions and discussed the preference form with Makoto. It was then Makoto reminded him that, having been in the same school all these years, the day to part ways was approaching. That evening, Makoto's father took him for a drive and asked about his preferences for the future. Makoto hadn't decided yet, so his father asked another question he had posed before high school. "Do you want to be a girl?" When Makoto asked how his father would react if he said yes, his father replied that he would naturally look into how to help Makoto be happy and assured him that he would handle things with his mother, so Makoto only needed to think about what he truly wanted. Ryuji is a good student, and his teachers suggest he continue to university. Meanwhile, Makoto is still deciding whether to join the basketball team and whether to identify as male or female. Unexpectedly, he runs into Saki at school. She greets him warmly as usual, while playing with a kitten in the bushes. Charmed by the cute scene, Makoto joins her. He shares his basketball club dilemma with Saki. Joining now would mean leaving in just 6 months, and he's unsure how to decline. He asks if she would join in his place. Saki offers a third option. Why not join when you feel like it? Realizing he can follow his heart, Makoto feels enlightened and resolves his other dilemma. Eventually, both Makoto and Ryuji decide to pursue further education. Makoto informs the basketball club that he won't join, but would like to participate occasionally. The club leader happily agrees, grateful for any match help from Makoto. This resolves the issue smoothly. Ryuji then contemplates which university to attend. Realizing he and Makoto might go to different universities and seldom meet, he overhears classmates discussing confessions to seniors who are graduating soon. Motivated by the idea of possibly never seeing someone again, Ryuji decides to take a chance. He goes home and quickly learns how to confess his feelings, imagining Makoto's reactions: disgust, disdain, or perhaps reciprocation. Lost in thought, he envisions a lifelong, supportive relationship with Makoto, only to be snapped back to reality by his sister. Makoto was watching a TV drama featuring a male character dressed boldly as a girl. He wondered if choosing neither identity was also an option. The next day, Saki's class was busy preparing for the cultural festival booth. On her way to fetch cardboard boxes, she bumped into Makoto. She declined his offer to help, but as he watched her walk away, he decided to help her carry half the load anyway. At the entrance, one of Saki's male classmates came out to meet them and was instantly captivated by Makoto, even though he knew Makoto was a senior. At that moment, Saki realized that Makoto was no longer special to her. Meanwhile, Ryuji was devastated because he drew the worst lot in a draw. The girls were excited, but a sympathetic friend comforted him, saying it was all part of youth. That evening, Saki went to an empty classroom and unexpectedly encountered Ryuji. He immediately grabbed her by the mouth and demanded to know why she hadn't been around lately. Saki evaded the question. Sensing she was troubled, Ryuji told her she could confide in him. Saki changed the subject, asking about his class's activities for the festival and promising to support them. The cultural festival was bustling with preparations, with each class working hard yet achieving great results. Makoto's class was running a takoyaki stand, while Saki's handled a haunted house, where she dressed up as a ghost. Wearing her ghost costume, she went to wait for Makoto, who had just finished his shift and decided to join her. To his surprise, her ghost costume was quite cute, making it hard for him to look directly at her. They then visited Ryuji's class, which was running a maid cafe. No wonder Ryuji was so upset before. Due to a lack of volunteers, some of the boys, including him, had to wear maid outfits. The lot drawn that day decided who would wear the maid outfits. Excited to see their senior in a maid outfit, the younger students asked him to draw hearts with ketchup on their omelet rice, while Saki requested a small bear drawing. Both enjoyed their meals immensely. Soon, it was time for Saki to return to her role as the ghost, so she left, unaware of what she would miss. Just as she left, a call for a substitute came because one of the maids felt unwell. Ryuji quickly volunteered Makoto, who enjoyed the role immensely, drawing in more customers. Indeed, a brother's help is invaluable. That evening, a bonfire party was scheduled at the school, and students gathered at the playground. However, Makoto and Ryuji were delayed because Makoto wanted to wear the maid outfit a bit longer. Ryuji complimented him, saying the outfit suited him well. Later, as Makoto was about to change, he picked up Ryuji's uniform from the table. Unexpectedly, a student handbook fell out, opening to a page with Makoto's photo. Ryuji had kept his photograph in his handbook, instantly setting a charged atmosphere between them. Makoto kindly offered to carry Ryuji's school uniform, but Ryuji's student ID card fell to the ground, flipping open to his photo. The air went quiet for a moment. Ryuji quickly covered it up, having resolved to keep his feelings deeply hidden. Actually, Ryuji had liked Makoto for a long time. They were childhood friends. Makoto often came over to Ryuji's house for meals and sometimes stayed overnight, sharing the same bed. Makoto once told Ryuji that he slept particularly well there. That night, Ryuji couldn't sleep, watching Makoto's sleeping face and feeling a tickle in his heart. After entering middle school, a delinquent in their class got an ear piercing and was scolded by a teacher. Ryuji didn't understand such actions and thought he would never associate with such people. That changed during a school trip when some boys joked that another boy liked Makoto. The boy blushed and said he just thought Makoto was good-looking. They took a group photo with Makoto, all smiling foolishly. Ryuji felt he couldn't become like them and forced a smile to fit in. That night, everyone slept in a large room, and Ryuji found himself unable to sleep again while watching Makoto. Afterward, Ryuji began to care about Makoto inexplicably, leading to a gradual distancing in their relationship. To let these feelings fade, Ryuji decided to attend a high school where he wouldn't see Makoto. Unexpectedly, he encountered Makoto in female attire at the new school. Makoto quickly covered Ryuji's mouth and pulled him behind a building, asking him not to reveal that he was a boy. For various reasons, everyone at this school thought Makoto was a girl. Although Ryuji didn't understand why, he wouldn't expose him. Despite wanting to keep a distance, Ryuji found his gaze involuntarily following Makoto and even researched topics related to being gay. The next day at school, rumors spread that Makoto was actually a boy, with a crowd gathered at the classroom door pointing fingers at him. Makoto silently left for an empty classroom. When Ryuji caught up, Makoto asked him not to come any closer, or he would also be subjected to strange looks. However, in his heart, Ryuji thought that since Makoto had become such a unique individual, he would stand by him. He pierced his own ear and started to approach Makoto. The rooftop became their secret base. Soon after, Makoto even wore a wig, since everyone already knew he was a boy. He stopped caring about others' stares and focused solely on what he wanted to do. Time passed, and one of Ryuji's male classmates got hold of Makoto's photo and made disrespectful comments, offering to distribute more copies. Enraged, Ryuji punched him and started a fight, which didn't end until a teacher intervened. Both of their parents were called in. Later, Ryuji picked up the photo from the trash and hid it in his student ID card holder. Makoto seemed unaware and continued talking to Ryuji as usual before leaving the classroom to join the bonfire party with classmates. After he left, Ryuji felt a weight lifted off him, recalling everything that had happened. He thought it was over, but Makoto's behavior became increasingly strange. Seeing Makoto without a scarf, Ryuji offered his own, but Makoto blushed and declined. Throughout the day, Makoto's gaze involuntarily followed Ryuji. After school, while staying for duty, Makoto couldn't help but ask a friend what it meant if someone kept a photo in their student ID card. The girl answered without hesitation. It must mean he likes him, but probably doesn't want him to know. She then curiously asked if Makoto liked that friend. Flustered, Makoto denied it, but internally confirmed the answer. When Ryuji finished his duties and came to pick him up, intending to walk home together, Makoto said he had to attend a basketball club activity. As Ryuji tried to brush some dust off Makoto's hair, Makoto instinctively dodged. In that moment, Ryuji understood. Makoto must have seen the photo, as he had always been watching Makoto. How could he not know if he had lied? Thus, Ryuji no longer hid his feelings and openly confessed, "I like you." Makoto also recalled all the moments he had spent with Ryuji, but instinctively apologized, thinking Ryuji saw him as a girl because of his appearance, and blamed himself for any misunderstandings. However, voicing such thoughts would only hurt Ryuji by trivializing his genuine feelings, making him feel burdensome. After speaking, Ryuji walked away, not stopping despite Makoto's attempts to hold him back. Makoto realized things could never return to how they were before. Back at home, Makoto reflected on the day's events. Ryuji had never judged him for his rebellious actions, and Makoto did not want to lose such a friend. He resolved to find Ryuji at his home but learned he had already left. At school, classmates mentioned Ryuji hadn't attended because he had skipped to go to the beach. There, criticizing himself humorously for acting like a melodramatic youth, he uncontrollably wrote Makoto's name in the sand, only for the waves to erase it immediately. Ryuji then walked to the train tracks, where an approaching train neared. Fortunately, Makoto rushed to pull him back, immediately confessing he didn't want things to continue this way, and asked to be in a relationship with Ryuji. Ryuji, momentarily stunned, realized what Makoto said, and was more than willing to agree. Meanwhile, Saki was called out by a teacher due to a family emergency involving her grandmother. While Makoto and Ryuji were affirming their relationship, Saki quickly packed her things and passed by Makoto, who had returned early to school, without noticing him. When Makoto and Ryuji confirmed their relationship, Saki felt devastated. She heard from a teacher that her grandmother had an accident. While calling her dad, she ran to the hospital but couldn't reach him. Fortunately, her grandmother was okay at the hospital. She had felt dizzy and fallen, but it was only a precaution to keep her hospitalized for observation. Then, Saki received a call back from her dad. He was excited and said he would return the next day. Distracted, Saki fell down the stairs, scraping her knee. A nurse came to disinfect the wound. Saki said she was fine, but tears kept flowing. The next morning, Ryuji wondered while waiting for the bus if yesterday was just a dream. Maybe Makoto didn't understand what dating meant. Would that mean only he felt awkward? As he was pondering, Makoto arrived looking normal, but then blushed and admitted feeling shy. Ryuji couldn't handle it. His nose bled profusely, almost fainting on the spot. Meanwhile, Saki's teacher reminded the students during lunch to head home quickly after school, due to a suspicious person seen near their school. After school, Saki saw Ryuji in the hall with a coy smile. She directly asked if something happened with Makoto. Ryuji blushed, unsure whether to tell Saki, and gave a vague reply. Saki didn't press further. Knowing they would walk home together, she left immediately to avoid being a third wheel. That evening, relaxing in the bathtub, Saki felt happy thinking her dad would be home the next morning. Suddenly, she saw a shadow outside the window and rushed out of the bathroom. Remembering her teacher's warning, she panicked, realizing she was home alone. Recalling Ryuji once said to share any troubles, she called him in a frantic tone asking for help. Without questioning, Ryuji asked for her address and rushed over from his home. When Ryuji arrived, Saki looked lively, but he noticed her hair was still wet. He touched her head and suggested she dry her hair first. With Ryuji there, Saki felt much safer and explained everything to him. Her grandmother was hospitalized, and her father wouldn't be home until the next morning. Although Saki appeared fine, her hands were trembling. Ryuji decided to stay the night to keep her company. Curious, he asked why she had called him. Saki's answer surprised him. She didn't want to bother someone who liked her because calling someone in the middle of the night might make them dislike her. She thought Ryuji wouldn't mind since he didn't like her. Saki then asked if, in the future, Ryuji found he liked no one but Makoto and could not be with her. Could they be together? Ryuji replied that such a future wouldn't happen and Saki would be fine. Hearing this, Saki burst into tears. At that moment, the suspicious person outside started tampering with the door and even unlocked it. Ryuji quickly hid with Saki in the storage room. Amid the chaos, they fell in a compromising position just as the intruder, who turned out to be Saki's father, entered. Thinking his daughter was up to no good, he was surprised. After Ryuji explained the situation, he went home. Saki's father seemed as unreliable as she was. The next morning, they went to the beach to watch the sunrise. He said he couldn't stay long but would be there for Christmas. Saki was very happy for the next few days, reminiscing about her happiest times in her dreams. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last. Her parents divorced, and a young, unknowing Saki chose to stay with her father, watching her mother leave and never return. While Makoto and Ryuji were having dinner, Makoto couldn't help but worry about Saki. Ryuji then shared everything he knew with him. Makoto realized that Saki had been in touch with Ryuji all along, just not contacting him privately anymore. However, Saki's issues could be set aside for now. Ryuji was most concerned about the upcoming Christmas, their first significant holiday since they became a couple. Naturally, he wanted to spend it together, and Makoto saw no reason to refuse. On the train ride home, they overheard other couples discussing their Christmas plans, wondering if they should do the same. Every day after school, Saki would visit her grandmother in the hospital, cheer her up with various fun stories, and tell her about her newfound love for whales. Then she'd go home to cook dinner for her father. However, after preparing a lavish meal, her father wouldn't return until 11 p.m., smelling of alcohol. Seeing his daughter increasingly resembling his ex-wife, he drunkenly confessed his feelings of inadequacy as a father. The next day on the way to school, Makoto bluntly asked Ryuji if he wanted to kiss her. Ryuji's reaction made it clear he was very keen, though discussing such a topic early in the morning might be too stimulating. But Ryuji knew Makoto was different. Being with her was all that mattered to him. The silly pair dropped the topic thereafter. That evening, Saki's father came home early, bringing 2 tickets to a special Christmas show at the planetarium, wanting to go with Saki. He loved his job passionately, even stating he'd have no regrets dying for it, a sentiment Saki's grandmother had expressed when her husband passed away. Saki wondered why everyone could be so passionate. She too wished to have something or someone to be passionate about. There once was a senior named Makoto, but it seemed she lacked the resolute determination for him. To spend Christmas with Makoto, Ryuji went out to buy a gift and then invited Makoto to his house on Christmas Day. Makoto happily agreed and said she would bring a cake. Through their time together, Ryuji realized that Makoto's feelings for him were still like the strong brotherly love of the past. He thought they might as well have stayed friends. Unbeknownst to him, Makoto was eagerly picking out a Christmas gift for him, though she kept finding cute little things and remembered she hadn't contacted Saki in a long time. Unsure what to say, she thought about asking Saki about her Christmas plans. Saki was originally supposed to go to a show with her father, but on Christmas Day, her father suddenly said he had to leave and mentioned that if he didn't return now, it might be 10 years before they could see each other again. Saki cheerfully reassured her father, telling him not to worry as a friend had invited her for Christmas. Her father truly felt relieved and left the home with Saki's smiling farewell, not even noticing that she had injured her leg in the past few days. On Christmas Eve, Saki brought ribbons to visit her grandmother, surprising her and the nurse, and then got a scolding from her grandmother. Hearing that her son had left, her grandmother worried about Saki's mood. Still, Saki was as lively and cheerful as ever, seemingly unaffected. After leaving the hospital, she went to the planetarium alone, surrounded by couples, her solitude more apparent when she emerged. Walking home alone, Saki caught a glimpse of her mother in a passing taxi. She immediately chased after it, but fell and scraped her knee, her mother getting further away. At that moment, she saw a classmate on a bicycle and impulsively took the bike to pursue the taxi, knowing it was almost impossible to catch up, but unwilling to give up. Meanwhile, Ryuji's family, knowing his crush was coming over, left the house, encouraging him to do his best tonight. Makoto was on his way to Ryuji's house with a cake when he encountered a distraught Saki. She tried to smile, but couldn't manage it, and told Makoto to leave her alone. However, Makoto noticed her injured knee. Despite Saki's claims that it didn't hurt, her tears betrayed her pain. She cried, wondering why her mother, who she thought cared the most, hadn't noticed her. With her grandparents gone and her father preoccupied with whale research, she thought at least her mother saw her as special. Deep down, Saki knew if she were truly special, she wouldn't have been left alone for 10 years. Crying, Saki said she had no one by her side. Makoto said nothing, let go of the bike, and embraced her. Ryuji waited in vain for his boyfriend and decided to pick him up with an umbrella. Halfway there, he worried that he might seem too eager and embarrass himself. Ryuji knew Makoto did not reciprocate his feelings to the same extent, leading him to wonder if things would be different if he were not a boy, if they hadn't known each other since childhood, or if Makoto were a girl. However, the next moment, he saw Makoto and Saki embracing, with Makoto reassuring Saki that he would always be there for her. At that instant, Ryuji's eyes lost their sparkle. Meanwhile, Saki's mother did see her, but lacked the courage to turn around, thinking her daughter would assume it was too late. However, they would soon meet again. Makoto and Saki snapped back to reality, both a bit panicked. Makoto bandaged Saki's wound and prepared to take her to the station. Just then, he noticed the cake he had dropped and remembered his plans with Ryuji. Checking his phone, he saw several messages from Ryuji, with the last one saying he decided to go to his grandmother's house with his family, canceling their date. Relieved, Makoto felt justified in taking Saki to the station, where she clung to his clothes. Ryuji sat on a bench, clearly understanding he was not chosen. What would become of these three now? The next morning, Makoto went to see Ryuji and heard from Ryuji's parents that he returned home looking gloomy the previous night, clearly dumped. On the way, Makoto asked Ryuji what happened. Ryuji explained he went out, but felt unwell and rested in a manga cafe until late. He lied to Makoto, who then relaxed and gave him a Christmas gift he had prepared. Surprisingly, Ryuji did not expect a gift, but quickly presented his own. Both were pleased with their gifts and spent the day together, visiting various cute stores and even going ice skating. Although Ryuji was just stood up yesterday, he still felt like he was struck by an arrow of emotion. The skating rink offered a couple's discount, so it was filled with affectionate pairs. Ryuji felt hesitant and reminded Makoto that it would be odd for two guys to be there together and that people might find it disgusting. Makoto quickly understood and returned dressed in women's clothes, making them appear as a typical couple. They had fun for a while and then rested. Makoto told Ryuji that he had delivered a bicycle to Saki that morning and quickly explained that it wasn't because their date was canceled, but just a coincidence. With such honesty from his dear boyfriend, how could Ryuji be upset? Makoto wanted to cheer up Saki, who not only was injured but also seemed down. Ryuji admired Makoto's kindness. Meanwhile, Saki was at home, reading an apology message from her father promising to bring a whale plushie next time, even though her room was already filled with them. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, and it was two seniors, urging her to put on a coat and go with them. Saki was puzzled about why she needed to go hiking late at night. Makoto cheerfully told her about the meteor shower that night, looking effortlessly energized, unlike Ryuji and Saki, who teased each other about their frailties. When Makoto noticed Saki's injured knee, he asked if she was all right, commenting that Ryuji had become weak from studying too much. Saki laughed genuinely as she watched them flirt. Near the summit, both seniors reached out to Saki, pulling her up with them, and they successfully reached the top. Watching the stars on the mountain felt truly unique. Makoto couldn't help but shout, and Saki joined in. Ryuji initially didn't want to partake in their silly act, but ended up shouting too. After this, Saki felt much better. The next day, Makoto went to find Ryuji, who was still in bed at 10:30 a.m. When Makoto tried to wake him, Ryuji, half asleep, pulled him down by the neck. Makoto instinctively resisted. Ryuji, shocked upon waking and seeing the situation, bumped his head against the headboard and quickly explained he was just confused from sleep. The atmosphere became awkward between them. Makoto left the room to wait while Ryuji got ready, feeling mixed emotions and wondering why he suddenly thought of Saki at that moment. Their plan for the day was to see a movie. During the movie, Ryuji suddenly asked if they could hold hands, and Makoto did not refuse. Their hands clasped tightly together. Despite having held hands many times as children with no particular feelings, it felt strange now. Makoto didn't want Ryuji to feel sad, so they sat quietly until the movie ended. As the audience began to leave, Ryuji said he wanted to wait another minute until everyone was gone. Then he released Makoto's hand, stood up, and abruptly suggested they break up. Today marked nearly a year since they started, and the timing seemed right. Confused, Makoto asked for an explanation. Ryuji moved closer and asked if he was disgusting. Hearing Makoto's denial, Ryuji didn't believe it, feeling the same about himself. He thought it was better to end the relationship sooner and felt guilty for leaving Makoto with bad memories, yet he thanked him with a smile. After the breakup, the atmosphere between Makoto and Ryuji turned awkward. They didn't speak on the way home. Makoto kept thinking about how to cheer Ryuji up, but Ryuji just smiled and said goodbye. However, he didn't head home. Instead, he went to Saki's house and burst into tears upon arrival, using the same excuse Saki had once used. "I guess it's okay to bother you with this." Saki is truly impressive. Even after discovering that Makoto was a male disguised as a female and that Ryuji liked Makoto, she wasn't shocked at all. Ryuji always admired Saki for that. When he shared this, Saki stuffed a few more toy whales into his arms to comfort him. On the other hand, Makoto felt incredibly down, wondering what Saki would do in his situation, but quickly snapped out of it, reminding himself that this was something he needed to think through alone. He felt like he was always following in Saki's footsteps, yet she had left him behind and gone somewhere with Ryuji, telling him that they couldn't find happiness because he wouldn't choose a normal path. Ryuji also said they couldn't be together anymore, leaving Makoto all alone. Waking from a nightmare, Makoto again wished he were a girl so he could properly fall for Ryuji, but his thoughts were filled with images of Saki. Days later, Saki's grandmother was discharged from the hospital, and her aunt came to pick her up. It was the start of Saki's third term at school, and during a break, she saw Makoto watching Ryuji. She asked him why he didn't go say hello. Makoto didn't explain, just suggested it was better not to call, and then went back to the classroom. At noon, Ryuji sat alone on the rooftop, sadly eating a rice ball with his earrings taken off. Saki barged in, asking why he wasn't eating lunch and chatting with Makoto. Ryuji felt it was bad to keep clinging to someone who clearly didn't like him, even though they dated. After school, they ran into each other. Ryuji greeted him and quickly left. Makoto wanted to stop him but couldn't speak up, and they continued to drift apart, each not wanting to be disliked even more by the other. After their awkwardness, Saki was the most distressed. When she got home, even her meals didn't taste good anymore, which surprised her grandmother, who always thought Saki acted before feeling troubled. Saki was jolted into action. The next day, she arranged for Makoto and Ryuji to meet at the amusement park entrance. Both were shocked to see each other there. Saki didn't give them a chance to refuse and asked, "How far can whales talk to each other? 50 meters, 5,000 meters, or 500,000 meters?" Each chose different answers, but the correct one was the third. However, they weren't whales, so they needed to talk face to face. Pushing them forward, Saki wanted to help them reconcile just as her seniors had helped her. Ryuji wanted to leave, but Makoto suggested they talk things through. They tried some rides casually, and surprisingly, Makoto showed unexpected toughness, while Ryuji was less robust. They became engrossed in their date and reminisced about their childhood. Makoto admitted he used to be scared of Ryuji in kindergarten, because Ryuji always teased him. Once during hide and seek, Ryuji didn't show up, and Makoto, thinking it would end the teasing, prayed he wouldn't come out. When Ryuji didn't appear, Makoto felt incredibly sad, thinking it was his fault. Later, they visited a souvenir shop where Makoto bought a cute toy and confidently told the clerk it was for himself. They ended their day on the Ferris wheel. Ryuji noticed Makoto's significant change. He no longer cared about others' opinions. Makoto felt the same and wished he could be honest with his mother to improve their relationship, just as he was being honest with Ryuji. Makoto expressed a desire to change their current situation. When Ryuji asked what he wanted to do, Makoto was unsure. Ryuji then suggested they break up, as being together was not making him happy. Acknowledging his feelings for Makoto despite both being male, tears came to Makoto's eyes. He didn't understand what Ryuji was saying. He just knew they couldn't end things like this. Why couldn't they think about what to do next together? It didn't matter if Ryuji never gave up. Ryuji suddenly remembered his childhood when he was trapped in a dark room, feeling sad and anxious. It was then that Makoto found him. Meanwhile, Saki returned home to find her aunt there, talking to her grandmother. Not wanting to interrupt, Saki went outside. She saw someone praying at the shrine, hoping the gods would bless her meeting with Saki today. Looking closely, Saki realized it was her mother. She fell from the tree in shock, and her mother, having just made her wish, didn't expect her daughter to literally fall from the sky. After Makoto got home, his mother commented on his long hair and offered to book him a haircut appointment for the weekend. Makoto gathered the courage to tell her he would decide when to cut his hair. Surprisingly, his mother didn't mind and reflected on treating him too much like a child. Makoto was relieved, unaware of his mother's mixed feelings. She kept telling herself that Makoto was different, yet she couldn't stop worrying. Saki told her grandmother about running into her mother and expressed her desire to meet her the next day. However, her grandmother refused and told her to come home immediately after school. Confused, Saki shared her feelings with her friends the next day. Unexpectedly, senior Ryuji approached her, informing her that he and Makoto had reconciled, but the atmosphere was still a bit awkward. He invited Saki to join their lunch gathering, and she agreed. In return, she needed a favor from Makoto and Ryuji. After school, the three of them secretly watched Saki's mother, who was clearly looking for her daughter. Makoto felt that the mother seemed to care deeply for Saki and believed Saki should talk to her. Encouraged, Saki followed her heart and approached her mother, who took her to a fancy restaurant and ordered a lot of beautiful desserts. Concerned about the cost, Saki tried to stop her, but her mother revealed she had earned a certification and could now afford a life with Saki. She quickly clarified that wasn't her intention, but she indeed wanted to live with Saki. Tears of joy streamed down Saki's face, startling her mother. Saki was happy to learn her mother hadn't abandoned her. After dinner, Saki and her mother parted ways, promising to meet again. Arriving home late, Saki told her grandmother everything. Her grandmother advised against such actions in the future, only wishing to spare Saki any unpleasant feelings. Tearfully, Saki explained she was happy to see her mother again. Seeing her reaction, her grandmother relented and suggested Saki call her mother to arrange a proper conversation. Saki can now meet her mom anytime, although there seems to be some tension between her mom and grandmother. However, her seniors are happy for her. Makoto is a bit worried about Saki, as it has been many years since they last met. Saki smiles and says she is happy to see her mom. Next week is Makoto's graduation trip. He gathers the courage to tell his friends he plans to come clean to his mom after the trip. Just as he goes downstairs, another male student stops him. Sayotomi has fallen for a girl in their class, Hayose, and hopes to spend time with her during the trip. He asks for Makoto's help, but Makoto and Hayose have grown distant. Just then, Hayose notices the commotion and, blushing, walks over and calls Makoto's name, inviting him to hang out during their free time. This creates an awkward moment. On the other side, Saki's mom takes her to a sushi restaurant. Her mom is moved and saddened by her cheerful and considerate daughter. Hearing about the seniors' trip, she suggests they also go on a mother-daughter trip next week. Saki is more than willing. The day of the graduation trip arrives. Makoto doesn't know why Hayose would ask him out, as she avoids his gaze. He tries to approach her directly, but is called away by a classmate to play cards, and they don't get to talk. Once they arrive, their chances to talk are repeatedly interrupted, and the first day ends without Hayose speaking to Makoto. Sayotomi also fails to talk to Hayose. It's their class's turn to bathe, and when Ryuji thinks about his delicate ex-boyfriend bathing with other guys, he gets overly worried. Sayotomi drags a stressed Ryuji away, while Hayose waits for Makoto to come out, but meets Ryuji and Sayotomi first. Ryuji recognizes her as Makoto's friend from before he revealed his male identity, and warns her not to trouble Makoto anymore. However, Hayose regrets it and still wants to be friends with Makoto. Sayotomi hears this and seizes the chance, promising to help her during the next day's free time, even pulling Ryuji into the plan. During the next day's free time, the 4 students, along with another female friend of Makoto's, finally gathered together. However, Hayose got nervous whenever she spoke to Makoto and couldn't look him in the eyes. Seeing a cute keychain on Hayose's backpack, Saitomi thought of a new approach. He suggested Hayose approach Makoto with a stuffed toy. Attracted by the toy, Makoto easily made up with Hayose. In truth, Makoto had never been upset with Hayose. The group then visited a kimono rental shop, and Makoto was persuaded to try on a women's kimono, along with Hayose and the others. He ended up being the most eye-catching of the trio, mesmerizing Ryuji. Of course, Saotome only had eyes for Hayose. They toured Kyoto in kimonos and had a delightful day. However, wearing wooden sandals for too long made their feet hurt, so Ryuji suggested they take a break. The 3 went to buy drinks, giving Makoto and Hayose a chance to be alone. Both thought the other would blame them, but found they could still have fun together. Hayose mentioned that Makoto never gave her unpleasant memories, wondering if she always wanted to apologize. When Hayose first saw Makoto in class, she was drawn by his remarkable appearance. After chatting, they found many commonalities and naturally became good friends. However, on the day Makoto planned to be honest with Hayose, another boy called him away. This boy ended up confessing to Makoto, who naturally refused and explained he was actually a boy. The other boy didn't believe it and even pinned Makoto down, revealing a glimpse of his waist in a desperate act. Makoto quickly resisted and subdued the boy, hoping he wouldn't tell anyone. But Hayose, at the door, overheard their conversation. The next day, the news that Makoto was a boy spread in class, isolating him, and even Hayose faced whispers from others. Eventually, Hayose lacked the courage to stay by Makoto's side and always regretted it. If she had the bravery to ignore the stares and tell Makoto it was okay to continue being friends, things might have been different. Regretting the past, she could only ask him now, "Can we be friends again?" Makoto happily agreed, as he felt the same way as Hayose. As she spoke, Hayose began to cry. Seeing this, Saotome impulsively ran out and confronted Makoto, asking why he made Hayose cry. Hayose quickly explained that these were tears of joy. Saotome, struck by her radiant, tearful smile, blurted out, "I like you!" He confessed his feelings in such a moment. Later, Saotome regretted it, feeling unworthy of Hayose. "She's not someone I should like," he thought. Ryuji immediately objected, saying, "There's no should or shouldn't in love. Just love boldly." Inspired, Saotome felt uplifted by his friend's support. Ryuji was inwardly relieved that Saotome was a fool. Meanwhile, Makoto wondered if Hayose and Saotome might date. He wanted to share this with Saki, but worried it might upset Ryuji. Accidentally, he dialed Saki's number. Not wanting to hang up, he quickly changed the subject. Saki then mentioned she was going on a trip with her mother. They planned to exchange local specialties next Monday. The school trip ended successfully, and Hayose could now talk naturally with Makoto. Curious, Makoto asked if she was dating Saotome. Hayose felt she didn't deserve someone as cheerful as Saotome, thinking he was just playing with her. But Makoto sensed Saotome's sincerity. Back at school, Saotome grabbed Hayose's hand and passionately confessed his feelings in front of everyone, wanting to start as friends. Everyone thought he was very straightforward, and Hayose had no reason to refuse, not that she wanted to. The onlookers cheered for them. However, on the way home, Makoto was nervous about confessing to his mother that evening. Upon arriving, his mother warmly greeted him. Makoto immediately brought up a serious topic and showed her a pink handkerchief, explaining it was his, not Saki's. He hadn't changed since middle school. Just after he spoke, his mother had an asthma attack, but was soon calmed by his father. Makoto was heartbroken, having thought his mother would understand. His father consoled him, saying no apologies were needed, and gave him an envelope with his grandfather's address, hoping Makoto would meet the man. On the day of the trip, Mom went to pick up Saki and met Saki's grandmother. She felt awkward facing the elderly woman, but fortunately, Saki came out in time and promised to bring back local specialties for her grandmother. Then, she and her mom headed to the train station. There, unexpectedly, they ran into Makoto, who was on his way to see his grandfather. They happened to be on the same train. Saki heard about Makoto's plan to come clean with his mom and asked him about it. Makoto said he would tell her the details back at school. Unconsciously, he fell asleep on Saki's shoulder, but Saki and her mom had to get off earlier, while Makoto continued for a few more stops. Following the address his dad gave him, he reached his grandfather's house, greeted by an elderly man with long hair who wasn't surprised by his arrival. Meanwhile, Makoto's mom dreamt of the past. She loved cute things when she was young. She carelessly threw used nail polish into the trash, but her father picked it up. Once, while passing through an alley with a friend, she noticed someone's nails painted in the same color she had used before. The second time they passed, she saw the person's hairstyle was also like hers. When the person turned around, it was her father. Shocked, she called out, "Dad," and later confronted him at home, asking why he imitated her. He honestly admitted his envy of her ability to wear cute things. Back then, this disgusted Makoto's mom, and she abandoned all cute things and left home. After her mother died, no one controlled her father anymore. Makoto's mom kept a neutral appearance but still attracted Makoto's dad. They married and had Makoto. Feeling she had returned to a normal life, she began to like cute things again, only to slowly realize her son was becoming like his grandfather. She blamed herself and stopped dressing up, also restricting Makoto from liking those things. However, Makoto secretly embraced it and felt like he was in heaven upon reaching his grandfather's house. Not only was the decoration warm and cute, but his grandfather was also skilled at making desserts and offered to let Makoto stay. He planned to make a cat-shaped apple pie the next day. Then, the neighbor's sister brought over something for the grandfather. Makoto helped carry it to the room, finding clothes still being cut. It turned out his grandfather was a designer, which Makoto didn't find strange, but rather enviable. On another side, Saki and her mom were also enjoying their trip. In the evening, they soaked in a hot spring and had a feast. Saki's mom couldn't resist asking if Saki would still travel with her in the future. Saki initially wanted to say they could go together once her dad returned, but stopped herself before finishing. After all, he was a man who only brought disappointment. Meanwhile, the grandfather was teaching Makoto how to make sweets. He realized Makoto couldn't even crack an egg, a task his daughter never taught him. Despite this, Makoto was having a great time at his grandfather's place, calmly watching him sew clothes and feeling relaxed. It started to snow heavily outside. When Makoto went to the balcony to help with the flowers, he saw the neighbor's older sister, who told him the trains had stopped running due to the heavy snow. It looked like Makoto couldn't leave now. The three of them started eating hot pot together. The neighbor's sister noticed Makoto's smooth skin and couldn't resist doing his makeup. Although Makoto liked it, he wasn't sure if it suited him. The sister assured him that it only needed to feel right to him. Makoto then called Ryuji to share his experiences over the past couple of days. Ryuji said he didn't need to report everything to him, causing Makoto to quickly hang up, blushing. When his grandfather asked, Makoto confidently said that Ryuji was an important person. On the first day back at school, Saki's mom dropped her off. At the entrance, she met Ryuji, who thought Saki's mom looked a lot like Makoto, which explained the déjà vu. Since Makoto was still stuck at his grandfather's house, the two exchanged local specialties. Saki also shared with Ryuji about meeting Makoto on the train. Ryuji was speechless and said he would accept them together, although he seemed unsure as he spoke. Saki reassured him it wouldn't turn out that way, as she didn't really have special feelings. The snow continued for several days. The older sister suggested Makoto just stay on. Naturally, the grandfather didn't object, only saying he'd be happy if Makoto was. That night, Makoto admired a skirt the grandfather had just finished, which was very pretty. Surprisingly, his grandfather was willing to let him wear it. They went outside to play in the snow. Even their footprints looked cute. But suddenly, Makoto remembered upsetting his mom to the point of an asthma attack and thought it better to return home. However, the grandfather had already lain down in the snow, and Makoto simply lay beside him, asking if he ever felt lonely. Grandpa admitted he felt regret, but he was happy now. He explained that if giving up a few important things meant keeping at least one, it was still all right. Makoto reflected on his own experiences over the years, and his dad's promise to make his mom happy. He concluded that feeling happy there was enough for him. The next day finally brought clear skies, and Makoto was eager to go home, unwilling to give up anything he loved or anyone important to him, especially himself. Makoto appeared before his mom in women's clothes to show her his true self, and responded to a question his dad had once asked him about whether he wanted to be a boy or a girl. He had realized he didn't want to be either. He just wanted to continue as he was. Although a boy, he liked cute things, and his happiness certainly included his mom's acceptance. Thus, Makoto had his dad take him and his mom to the mall. His mom was initially worried about people staring, but there was no malice from others. Gradually, she relaxed and enjoyed looking at cute things with Makoto. Meanwhile, Ryuji showed Makoto's dad a video. Makoto, at the mall, picked out 2 outfits and asked his mom to choose one. She chose the same one he did, showing their surprisingly similar tastes. She got caught up in the moment, but still felt it was strange to continue this way. She worried that although it was fine now, life was long, and Makoto might face difficult situations or unpleasant experiences in the future that could hurt him. Eventually, they left the mall. The video Ryuji sent showed their school trip, with everyone playing together, none looking at Makoto with discrimination or dislike. Seeing how happy Makoto looked and how brave he was, how could they continue to hinder him as parents? Encouraged, the next day before school, his mom invited him to go shopping together again, just like the day before. Overjoyed by his efforts paying off, Makoto cried happily. The weather was clear again today. The 3 agreed to meet on the rooftop during lunch to exchange local specialties. Saki brought Makoto his favorite cute little things,